This is our third installment, our third podcast. I'm having a great time. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to this podcast especially because it's our first chance to talk baseball. Before we do that, a couple introductions here. Of course, we got Rob Castro over there in the Dodgers hats and the venerable Dick Newman. So, first topic of the day is the Doyers. Um, the Dodgers are, last time I checked, they're off to a 14-4 start this year, which is best in the majors. And they're doing all of that without Cody Bellinger. So, Rob, let's go to you first since you're wearing the Dodger cap. What do you think the Dodgers' chances of repeating are?
Oh man, they're so high. When I look at this Dodger lineup, it's very reminiscent of the Yankees 2000 lineup. You know what I mean? Like you start going down the lineup from top to bottom, and you're like, man, I love Seager, and then you're like, but hold up, I love Bellinger. Oh, but hold up, they got Mookie Betts too, and Justin Turner. I mean, it seems like it never ends. And when the line started, the odds to go to the Major League World Series, Dodgers were one, followed by Yankees, which are shitting to bed right now, and Padres third. And I think they're right there. I mean, baseball's a tricky sport, but if I had to put my money on it, I think Dodgers are going back. I think they're far and beyond, above everyone, especially the way Urias is playing right now. And that's not even like their ace. It's just crazy to me. So yeah, I definitely got the Dodgers up there.
I think with them, Billy Beane used to talk about how baseball, you play the 162 so that you can get the crapshoot in the playoffs. And that's the same thing here. But I mean, the Dodgers are just so stacked. I mean, they're missing Bellinger, and they're not missing a beat because they've got everything else around the horn. I mean, we're not talking about a team that's particularly deficient in any area of the roster. And the one place where I thought that they might have some problems would be in closer work. But if you've been seeing Jansen recently, he's throwing 97. He's got the wipeout slider back. The middle of the bullpen is doing just fine. They still have Justin Turner, Corey Seager. They've got Muncy. And when you got guys like Mookie, a guy like Mookie Betts, that's going to paper over any other deficiencies you might have. So even though Bellinger is out of there, it really doesn't matter. Because look at their rotation.
Because even their best pitchers are not playing right now, Sean. Urias is playing like their best pitcher. That's what's scary. You know what I mean? So when these guys start coming back and pitching 100%, and the way that lineup is, I just don't see them losing.
I mean, the thing is that it's like the Dodgers, they took care of a big problem. Just the other day, I think they signed him yesterday or today, within the last 48 hours. Walker Buehler just signed a 2-year, $8 million deal. So They're not going to have to worry about arbitration with that guy.
Yeah.
So any drama, any psychodrama, whatever drama, that's off the table with that guy. I mean, it doesn't matter that he isn't a power pitcher. He's a damn good pitcher.
Well, if you look at the Major League's top 25 rankings, best players, Dodgers have 5, and Buehler is one of them.
Yeah.
To just have 5 players in your lineup that are top 25, it's almost unfair. This is why I'm saying it's so reminiscent of those 2001 Yankees. It's just scary how good they are.
The difference for them is that it's like, those early 2000 Yankees teams made them really great. There wasn't anyone on those teams that was considered literally top 5 in the league. Not even Jeter was considered top 5. But they were so solid all around.
I would say more Rivera was top 5, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
I meant position players because on the pitching side, they would go out and sign whomever was best, whether it be Clemens, Andy Pettit was a damn good pitcher. David Wells would throw.
But they were farm build. That team was farm build, believe it or not.
Yeah,
that team. Yeah.
Up the middle, catcher, shortstop, center field.
Yeah.
And then Paul O'Neill was brought in as a. And my point is that their whole thing was about working counts, wearing out your starting pitcher. And nowadays it's a little bit different where everybody's swinging for the fences on almost every at bat. So for the Dodgers to be this good during this era when everybody's throwing 100-mile-an-hour and devastating breaking stuff, I don't know if they'll be able to keep it up, but I would think on odd day they're a really good chance of doing that.
Big time.
I wonder if Jansen slips up, because it seemed like he didn't have any confidence in his stuff last year towards the end of the year. I would throw Urias in the bullpen because that guy's fucking shit is just lightning fast. I mean, I would throw him in the pen if Urias, if falters.
No, I tend to agree with that too. But we've been saying this about Jansen the last few years. Like, hey, I think this could be his last year.
Yeah.
And Shaw was just saying like he's coming up kind of like strong. So we'll just have to wait and see because you could have great starting pitching a la Atlanta Braves back in the 90s. But if your bullpen is not closing, bro, you might not go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to go.
Even if the bullpen is closing, we're still talking about the second most left-handed scored only to Hockey.
Big time.
And look at Tampa pushed the Dodgers in that series. If Tampa doesn't pull Blake Snell when he's like on a run, maybe he wins that game. Who knows? I'd love that, kind of what if, but I don't want to belabor that too much. But yeah, Jansen looked like trash.
I mean, they took him to the end without banging on trash cans,
Yeah, it's nice to see somebody win without signs. But looking at Jansen's numbers real quick, so far in the year he's got a 2.25 ERA.
He's 8 innings, 2 earned runs. He has given up 6 walks though.
He's been on the decline, but that lineup, imagine you start winning games or you're leading by 7-8 runs. It gives you some cushion,
Yeah.
So I think that the Dodgers right now are definitely the best team in baseball. And I cannot say who's our close second.
I mean, we're still in April, but that old adage of team, wins in April aren't as important. No, all the win, any time is important, but it's still early enough to where it's like maybe they could get hit with an injury bug. Maybe they get some, inconsistency in the middle of their lineup. I just doubt that that's going to happen. There's just
we'll see tonight. They played the Padres last week. They took 2 out of 3. They're opening up tonight at the Ravine. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen tonight. If the Padres are going to come with balls and just going to face them up,
So that begs the bigger question: do we have a brewing rivalry in the National League West with the Padres and the Dodgers? What do you guys think?
I think we do, man. David Price says, "Listen, it's not a rivalry until bench is clear," and that's exactly what happened last week. When he was playing for Boston, and it might. It's not that. It doesn't carry any history, but it's definitely the most exciting rivalry right now. And you know what? The Padres are closing the gap on them. They're still a bit behind, but if you look at their lineup from 3 to 5, you got Tatis, then you got Machado, and then you got Hosmer. It's pretty decent. You know what I mean?
Looking at the games in play right now and looking at the live action that's happening, they got Tatis leading off tonight, and then they got Grisham, Machado, Hosmer, Myers, Cronenworth, Campisano, and Profar.
Right.
Which is a fun lineup.
Big time fun lineup.
Fun lineup, man. Like in the playoffs last year, I was kind of agnostic on the National League because I was like, my Cubs, they suck, whatever. But the Padres were one of those teams where I was like, they're kind of funky and they're fun and they got some real talent on that
Big time
team. And I really wanted to see them win. And, you knew it wasn't going to happen. They didn't have enough pitching, and even the bats, even though they got some fun bats in there, it's like they still need to be more well-rounded more than anything.
It's going to have to come down to Darvish and Snell, man. Snell looked pretty good for Tampa, and if those two could do it, and, Darvish, he's bounced around a bit,
Yeah.
So it's, we're going to have to see. Dodgers have the deeper lineup, but if the Padres could come up, if Snell could come up big, that's huge for them. But
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
I was going to say on the Darvish thing, as a Cubs fan, Darvish had gotten signed to be, and a friend of mine in another chat pointed this out, and he was like, "Yeah, finally, Darvish is the ace that the Cubs were paying for. He becomes that ace, and what do? They immediately trade him.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh. But that aside, you want to see the guy do well because it's like he'd always been considered somebody who was coming up short on what his talent was and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And now he's acing it. And you Darvish, Blake Snell, Dinelson Lamet just went on the 10-day DL again because he's got a forearm problem. Musgrove with a no-hitter, the first one that the franchise has ever had.
Yep.
And their fifth starter, Paddock. Look, that's not bad.
At all.
It's not bad. It's good. It's not necessarily on the level of the Dodgers.
No. And even their batting lineup for the Dodgers still not on the level of the Dodgers. So this is what's almost like they closing the gap, but the Dodgers are still pretty. It's almost like they're still Alabama. You know what I mean? You close the gap. You're Notre Dame. Okay, you're closing the gap on these guys, but let's that's why it's interesting tonight to see what happens between the Dodgers and Padres. That's something I'm looking forward to.
And I think for there to be a rivalry, the other team has to actually win some games.
Big time.
I remember watching ESPN, and I know the Padres took the Dodgers last Sunday, but the Dodgers had won 7 in a row. Up to that point, had won 7 in a row.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know, seemingly the Padres are still young, and so they got some growing pains to go through.
Wait, but back to the Padres. Looking at their last 10, they went 2-2 in Pittsburgh. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers in San Diego, and then on a home stretch against Milwaukee, they lost 3 in a row. So this is what we're talking about. They've been improved, but there's still that gelling or that coming together, figuring out who's doing what, pressing too hard, the experience of getting through it. Because we got to give the Dodgers credit, man. How many years did they go before they finally won one? Where they had so many years of heartbreak. They'd win a division, and then they'd get in, and they would either lose in a playoff series or they'd lose in the World Series. So there was a lot of emotional baggage that they had to get through. They really had to earn that World Series last year.
Well, I would say the Dodgers have underachieved. To be honest with you, the Dodgers were in 3 World Series in a row.
Yeah,
they were in 3 World Series in a row.
I mean, one. If you really think about it, one was kind of taken away from them, the Houston one. So if they won it last year, so if you're taking 2 out of 3, it's okay. Yeah. At least in baseball, Yeah. So, because
I mean, I have a hard time with calling these guys overrated. Because baseball is so hard to win at, and it's what happened with the Yankees when they won all those World Series in the early 2000s. That's an anomaly. That's the sort of thing that happened, once in a generation. And for the Dodgers to even do what they're doing in this modern era with Moneyball being in there, and the changes in the way the pitching staffs are being handled, the changes in the way that hitting is done, and just the fact that baseball is an incredibly difficult sport to win in, I find it really hard to criticize that team because they keep pouring resources.
Big time.
It's not like they're being the Cubs recently, where the Cubs are we're going to kind of low-key take us back to the days when we were mediocre because we've taken all the money that we've made and plowed in to the stadium to be an amusement park. The Dodgers are plowing resources in every year.
Yeah.
They're not taking the foot off the gas. They're always going after it. So that's how come it's hard for me to call them an underachiever when they've really been working their ass off.
Yeah, I don't think they've underachieved at all. I mean, 2 out of 3 to me is pretty good. I think they would have taken the Astros.
2 out of 3, though. It's only 1 out of 3. Right?
No, I know. It's just I can't count that Astros win to be
Well, we can put an asterisk.
It's just shady,
We can put an asterisk on that. And we can also put an asterisk on the Dodgers win last year. And as a matter of fact, if you're throwing tons of resources at a team, then there are fucking expectations to win. They're spending more money than anybody else.
Hey, they've been called the Yankees West, dude. You know, they are
West. So when you're
Yankees West, so they're throwing heck of money.
So obviously we got the Dodgers, cream of the crop. We got the Padres, who have assembled a pretty good team and might challenge for the wild card in the NL. What do we make of the Angels? Rob referenced Mike Trout, arguably still the best player in the game. 7, 8, 9 years running. Do they have a chance to make it out of the AL West and to put SoCal on the map as a baseball powerhouse region? What do you guys think? Let's go with you first, Rob.
If baseball was to end today, the Angels will be second in the wild card. So check this out. Like the A's started 0-6. They've won 11 straight games, so they've already number one of the division. My only concern with the Angel, it all depends really on the hands of Ohtani. If he has a great year, I think they could creep up and take a wild card or maybe take the division. But how do you find room for them? So Seattle's number one right now at 11-7. Angels have 2. And on top of that, if you think wild card, because Boston has started super hot. Let's say Boston can win their division because the Yankees can't shit forever, I'm assuming, with that lineup, So then you got the White Sox out there with Tony La Russa. So you have to find a wild card spot for them. Where do you put them? So you're either going to have to battle for a division with the A's. If not, your record's going to have to stay really strong. And I think Ohtani is going to have to show up strong. If not, I don't see 3 SoCal teams doing it. It's going to be, it's possible. There's a possibility, but it's very challenging.
I've got it marked as slim to none. I got the Dodgers going there for sure. But the Angels have ship pitching, and their bats are really solid. Pujols literally just hit a home run right while you were talking, Rob. But they're down 8-2 to the Astros, and let's look who they had starting today. Oh, look, it's Alex Cobb, whose ERA is now sitting at 6.28.
6.2?
Wow. 6.28. The Dodgers have been snake bitten at, with starting pitching. I mean, Ohtani comes over, and let's work our way backwards on this. Ohtani comes over, and he starts looking really good as a pitcher, and boom, all of a sudden he needs Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
They had Tyler Skaggs, who was a really good-looking, young pitcher for them. He dies of an overdose a couple of years ago. And 10 years ago, Nick Adenhart gets killed by a drunk driver. So every time that they've had, a higher-end pitching prospect, horrible things have happened. It's like, did they actually build that stadium on an Indian burial ground? I thought that this was like the demons were exorcised when they won the World Series back in 2002. But they don't have pitching. They just don't. And they haven't been able to sign big-name free agent pitchers. They can sign big free agent bats. They get Rondon back soon. They made the big signing with him, which I actually love.
I love that signing. And then you start thinking Rondon, and then you start thinking, that's what I'm saying, Trout. I mean, their lineup is pretty decent, but I think Ohtani is the link right here. If he could just stay healthy and perform, I could see them sneaking in as a wild card. They started number one in the division, but they just started to slip as of late.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody is out there and they were looking at MVP odds right now, Ohtani is going off at plus 1,400. And with a guy, he's playing 2 ways. And when he's not pitching, he's hitting second. And when he's making contact, the ball jumps off his bat.
Yes.
The guy is clearly one of the most talented players in all of baseball. There's, whether he's in Japan or here, it doesn't matter. The guy is that good. It's just that, when you don't have the pitching to follow it up, maybe they can sneak in at a number 2 wild card spot. They can do a play-in.
I mean, but do you really think that Seattle is that much better than them?
No, not at all.
Exactly. Exactly. That's my point.
A's.
That's my point. I think that the A's right now on a super hot winning streak. Dude, they started 0-6. They've won 11 straight, which is fascinating. But there's not one cream. I'll say the A's are probably number one in that division, especially the way they're playing. But there's not one that separates away from the other by a lot, So I think if they could.
I mean, you got Boston, you got Tampa. The Yankees you have to assume.
That's what I'm saying. You have to assume they're going to come back.
Sooner or later, the Yankees are going
to come back.
Yeah, I know a ton of Yankees fans, and they're all having nervous breakdowns right now.
Oh no, you have to.
Moon and Trade Stanton.
Big time.
They're hysterical Real Housewives of New Jersey. They're
big time,
completely losing their fucking minds. And I'm like, guys, calm down. It's like, not only are you the Yankees, there's a ton of talent on that team, and I would rather have a bad start than a bad finish.
Oh, big time. The thing is, you don't want to lag too much either. You know what I mean? It gets tricky.
No. Yeah, it's like, I don't care what anybody says. Losses in April still count as losses
big
for
time.
the entire season.
I agree.
But the Yankees are positioned better than most other teams.
Oh, they are. But it's like we're saying right now. Look, you got the Yankees. At one point, they're going to have to bounce back, right? Mm-hmm. Boston. Let's say Boston takes the division. Now you got the Yankees as they might want to take the wild card. Then you got the World Series. Second front runner, whatever the hell you want to call them, Tampa Bay Rays. Then you got the White Sox. Then you got the A's. Then you got. I mean, it starts to get tricky. What do you fit the Angels?
Well, and that's not. Well, I'm saying thin on the Angels because I'm a pessimist when it comes to them, and I have been for a few years now because they haven't had standout starting pitching.
Right.
This isn't. You can't get by on one ace. And Ohtani is questionably an ace. He's definitely, I'd put him up there as a number 2 starter on any staff. But he's clearly the number 1 guy on here. And, their staff is Ohtani, Quintana, Cobb, Haney, Canning, and Bundy. That's dicey, man. That's a roll of the dice after Ohtani.
Yeah.
And the one thing I do like is that they're like, you know what, screw it. We're just going to let Ohtani pitch every 5th or 6th day. We're going to put him into a regular rotation instead of just letting him pitch on Sundays. So he can get into a rhythm. When he's not pitching, he can hit. Do it. Let's see how this works.
Yeah, but I'm afraid of that, bro. I mean, this is the major leagues. This is not little league either. You need that arm. You need that arm safe too. You know what I mean? Like, do a player like that, that's going to have to take a toll on you. I don't know.
I don't know that.
I would like to see. Go ahead.
I don't know that batting. I don't know that batting is as detrimental to the body that pitching is. Obviously, with elbows and shoulders. I mean, I think a professional can go out there and put together a solid at bat more often than not versus pitching. Ohtani in his last outing, and Sean, you can check this if you want. I think homeboy did like 4 innings. He threw 4 innings of shutout baseball. 4 innings isn't going to fucking get it done.
That's what I'm saying, but that's exactly my point, Dave. So let's say right now he throws 8 innings, and they give him 1 day rest when they take 4 or 5 days rest, right? It's every 5th day they pitch.
Yeah.
Now he comes back and he's batting, he's playing, he's getting on the road. He's not resting that arm. He's not fully resting. He might have to catch a ball and just swing. I don't know. I would just focus on pitching.
Back up on that. It's not like these guys go and they pitch and then they sit on their ass for 5 days and then pitch again. It's like they'll have a rest day and then they might go through a little bit of therapy or whatever, but they're also working out in between their start.
Correct, but working out is not it's not catching baseballs and have to swing it to wherever. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm trying to spell out for you like what the work week looks like for a starting pitcher. So they'll come out of their start and they'll have a rest day. Then they start working out again, and then they'll get a bullpen day in there somewhere during the week where they'll go out there and they're throwing the ball some. Where they'll do some long toss and stuff like that. So they're airing that arm out. Now, if Ohtani is playing in the outfield in a game, how many times is he actually going to throw the ball? Maybe 5.
Oh, correct. But you're putting a pitcher at the mercy of a player at the mercy of getting injured. Outfielders get or anybody, whatever, any player. You're just playing.
I think the risk is worth it. The guy is so good both ways that the risk is worth it.
Is he that good? Is he that good right now pitching? He's not. He's so good. Show it to me. He's not. What is he doing right now?
That's not my point, Rob. My point, Rob, is that they also made like a contractual obligation of the guy to let him play both ways. That was like one of the reasons why he even agreed to come to the Angels. So they have if that's in the contract, then that's on them. But
I'll have him pitch. I'm focused on pitching. That's me. That's what I'm saying. You think he could do it both ways? Then he could do it both ways. But like David's saying, 4 innings is not going to cut it, dude.
Yeah. So both of his starts that he's had so far, one went 4 innings and the other one went 4.2. 80 pitches in the first one. Or no, his first start was on April 4th. He went 92 pitches in 4.2 innings. And on the 20th, 80 pitches over 4 innings. And you know why? He's got 11 walks in 8.2 innings, 8 2/3 innings. So he's going to work on that control for sure. No doubt about it. But they're not all of a sudden going to yank him out of there because while those numbers are pretty bad, 8.2 innings, 14 Ks, he's got an ERA of 104. So they're not going to like all of a sudden not let him start anymore because on his hitting, he's hitting. No,
he's hitting. He's living up to his money. Yeah, he's pitching. He's got work to do.
Yeah, he's got to work on he's got control issues because, you see his raw stuff and it's amazing.
But this is what I said at the beginning when Dave asked the question. I said, it's all on his shoulders. If he has a great pitching season, I think the Angels could sneak up and even take the division.
And we all know that, you have to have a formidable pitching staff to make it to the playoffs. And speaking of pitching, we're not even 20 games. So maybe we are about 20 games into the 2021 season. And we've had 2 no-hitters so far, Joe Musgrove of the Padres and Carlos Rondon of the White Sox. Can we read anything into those 2 no-hitters so early in the season? Dick, what do you see from those 2 no-hitters?
It goes right back to the way that the game is being played these days. So I'll take it back even further to 2016 All-Star game. I remember I was in Montana working on a show and living out of a hotel room. All-Star game comes on, I pop it on. I'm like, all right, All-Star game, yeah. And I'd been working a lot, so I hadn't had a chance to watch a lot of baseball. I was following it through the box scores. But all I saw was a couple of home runs, a few walks, a lot of strikeouts, and that was about it, man. And as we were discussing earlier with the shift and the way the pitching has changed, I'm not surprised that we've already seen a couple of no-hitters. As a matter of fact, I expect there to be another 2 or 3 over the course of the season because they're swinging away. Everybody's going for a home run. And strikeout numbers are up. Not as many guys are walking. Guys they're going for the fences.
Well, they've been up for the last 3 years. In 2019, we have 4 no-hitters. Last year in a shortened season, we had 2.
Yeah.
And we only played 60 games. So they've been going up. That's saying a lot. And the fact that it happened in the first 2 weeks, I could almost guarantee we're going to see 1 or 2 more for sure, like 2019. Listen, and it's a special club when you join no-hitter, there's been over 200,000 games played and only 307 no-hitters in history. So it's something beautiful to watch, people that really love baseball to see a no-hitter. It's just, I love it. And, you start looking at all these records because baseball is such a record sport.
Yeah.
And, they take these things for it's the Holy Grail. But I was doing my research. I'm sure you guys know this. Probably Sean knows this. Which team has the most no-hitters?
I would say Dodgers.
Yeah. And who's number 2?
I was going to totally guess them.
Ooh, number 2. I'm gonna go the Angels.
White Sox.
Interesting.
So you got Dodgers. You got Dodgers followed by White Sox with 20. Dodgers have 26.
Yeah.
White Sox have 20. Red Sox have 18. Giants 17.
Okay.
And 6 teams have only 1, which the Padres just got into it last week or a couple weeks back. But what's a team that surprised me there? the New York Mets, dude, only have one no-hitter, and that was done by Johan Santana.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me because they've had Tom Seaver, they've had Doc Gooden, they've had good pitching. They have this whole, and only one no-hitter? I mean, I understand Tampa Bay Rays having one no-hitter, but,
Well, and the fun part about that was Santana, throwing that no-hitter. That was toward the tail of the end of his career.
Big time.
And I'll never forget him when he threw that no-hitter that, he had to really labor, to get through it at the end. And I want to say that the manager asked him whether or not he could. I'm doing this from memory. I'm not even going to look it up because it's such a fun memory that you could tell that there was nothing that was going to get that guy off the mound. Because he had all those injuries and he had been such a great pitcher, and then he had years stolen from him, because of injuries. But you could totally tell that when he threw that no-hitter, that was kind of his swan song. That there wasn't going to be any more
I remember that clearly too.
Yeah. And you could tell that it was that took the last ounces of baseball that he had in him. You could tell that a lot of that was being sucked out. But what a moment to have it sucked out over. That's such a great individual accomplishment. So
now I'll throw another one by you guys. You guys will know the answer to this one. Who has the most no-hitters? That's an obvious one.
Well, yeah.
Nolan Ryan?
Nolan, followed by Sandy Koufax. But who follows Sandy Koufax? Justin Verlander.
Okay.
He has 3 no-hitters.
Yeah. Yep.
So, it's a special club, dude. Only 307 times has been done. So the fact that we saw it in the first 2 weeks is pretty impressive to me. And only 6 days apart.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's not, and this is not to take away from the accomplishment of what these young men are doing. It's amazing. But the reality is that the game has changed a lot. There aren't guys that are squeeze bunts and hitting for singles and whatnot. Doesn't take anything away from them, but I think that we're going to see a higher rate of no-hitters and strikeouts as time goes along. I mean, we're already seeing it. It's already coming out. And that's not a criticism, I mean, we've already criticized the game a lot, but if pitchers are going to get more no-hitters, I'm all down with that, man. There's nothing more exciting than watching a no-hitter in the last
big time. Yeah.
When I worked at ESPN, and it was you'd be doing a game down in screening, and if you had a pitcher get in past the 5th inning and he gets into the 6th, he was carrying a no-hitter, then you might put your hand up and go, "Hey, homie just crossed the line," and all right, keep an eye on it. And it wouldn't really become a thing to where it was a no-hitter watch until if they got past the 7th inning, then it became a real thing.
Yeah.
And that's exciting, man. That is
exciting.
Oh,
gosh. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. All of a sudden, it's everything.
It's nail biting. It almost, big time, it gets magnified tenfold.
Yeah.
It almost becomes like a playoff atmosphere for a second.
Does. Oh, God. For
the
last 2 innings, it's watching a playoff game.
It's like watching a playoff game.
Well, we all know that next week, in fact, is the NFL draft. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Everybody's going to be talking about that over the next week. Let's finish off today's podcast. We're going to be some final thoughts on the NFL draft as it approaches. Are we hearing any moves by any teams? What do you guys hear on the rumor mill? I'm hearing. I'll just throw this out there. I heard today, quite possibly Trey Lance to San Francisco.
And I said last week the Niners are bluffing. I've been saying it for the past 2 weeks when they were bluffing about Mac Jones. I don't think you give the Dolphins that many picks for Mac Jones. I think you take a quarterback with a lot of upside, but who knows? They might go and take Justin Fields, man. This is the time that they're all playing poker with each other. Yep. So no one knows anything, to be honest,
Sean, any final thoughts?
We learned nothing, so
I so hope that the Niners gave up more draft capital to go ahead and go after Mac Jones than the Bears gave up to go and get Mitch Trubisky. I really hope that's what's happening here. I'm just beside myself almost with glee that the Niners would go and get Mac Jones. maybe you're right, Dave. Maybe it's all just a ruse and a bluff, and these guys are just, playing a poker game.
Yeah.
But the wishful side of me is just like, oh God, please do this so I can have like the biggest laugh that I've had at the draft in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were them at third overall, you're going to give up that much draft capital to go and get somebody. I'm going to go and get Justin Fields, or I'm going to go ahead and get or Trey Lance. Get Justin Fields and Trey Lance for me. And
it's just such a, it's almost like I want to, I was talking to a friend about this. Like, it's almost like I want to stop speculating who I will get, just because such a hard science. If it's a science, it's not a science, but it's such a hard thing to do. Like last year, Justin Jefferson was the best rookie receiver in the NFL. It wasn't Henry Ruggs that went to the Raiders first. It wasn't Jerry Jeudy that went second from Alabama. It was Justin Jefferson, who played with actually Jamar Chase at LSU in 2019 when Jamar Chase was breaking all those records. So, like the Raiders could have had Justin Jefferson. They went after Henry Ruggs. They fell in love with speed like they always do. These people, Denver fell in love with Jerry Jeudy. These guys all had him ranked way ahead of Justin Jefferson. Yeah. So it's such a hard thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, speculating on which team is going to do what is kind of where we know that the Niners are going to go ahead and take a quarterback.
Big time. That's all we know.
Yeah, we know that they're going to take a QB. Which one they're going to do, goodness only knows. I'd probably go and take Fields, but I could see why somebody would take Lance. But I cannot for the life of me see why somebody would take Mac Jones in the top three.
I think if Fields is not taken by the Niners, I think you're going to see a lot of movement. Atlanta's going to be receiving a lot of phone calls, whether it's from Denver, whether it's even Chicago. I heard Chicago might jump up and be like, hey, let's do this. I think they're going to start getting phone calls. So it's going to be interesting around that third pick. That's when it's going to start getting nice.
Yeah, I don't have any inside knowledge on any of this shit that's getting ready to happen. But I just can't for the life of me stop thinking about how if things were a little bit different with the way that they have the cap structured, Mac Jones would not be being talked about going somewhere in the top 10. And neither would Trey Lance. Those guys would be looked at as project quarterbacks. The Niners wouldn't have been trading up to 3. Instead, they would have been like, we want to pick up more pieces to fill out our depth and look for more defensive guys because we already have Jimmy Handsome under contract. So I know that we've talked about it before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's going to be. I think it's going to be with the fact that there's going to be 5 quarterbacks potentially in the first 10. That's a lot of fun, especially trying to guess where it's going to end up being.
I would just love to see Lawrence just bust. Hey, shit happens, bro. I don't want to wish the kid. The kid's cool, but we're cementing this thing like he's Jesus, bro. I'm like,
well,
I was thinking about that too, and it's like, oh yeah, I fucking love this guy. Blah, 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 blah. It's like we don't know. We don't know.
Well, the only thing we do know is that in about 7 days from now, we're going to be working our way through the first round of the NFL draft. So